Getting to be on Broadway was so much fun, and I really worked hard to be present in that experience because I wanted to appreciate it, and I do appreciate it. I don't feel like a come down from it because it's never defined, at any point, it's never defined what I think of as success as an artist.
Are you embarrassed by the music that you put out?
Sometimes, no.
I knew you were to say that.
I think the way to find conviction in that is to really radically believe in what you're doing.
Hello and welcome.
Welcome back to Glass Slipping.
My name's Keaton.
I'm Peter.
And we're here to talk to you about the hot button issues.
Yeah, the hot button issues.
Is that what it's called? Is that the phrase? Hot button issues?
I'm sure it has been used before.
I feel like that's something people say.
I believe you.
I think Taylor said it and I took it. And I was like, hot button issues.
Great.
We're not really going to talk about the hot button issues
I
today.
don't foresee that.
Not politically or anything.
You never know.
Well, that's true. You do never know.
So it has been a long time since we've actually recorded the podcast.
Yeah. If you guys know about that, sometimes you record and you wait to put them out. So we're not recording and then putting them out every week. But we recorded 5 episodes in succession, 6 months ago, right?
Many months ago, March,
May?
April, May.
Shit, yeah. Before we left.
But yeah, we recorded them, had some level of release plan, changed the release plan, sat on them for a while, and then just started putting them out.
Yeah.
So this is the first time we've recorded since the first couple episodes have gone out.
Yeah, so it's been a minute.
The response thus far has been nice.
Yeah, good.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel?
I feel good.
Perceived?
Yeah, I feel good. I feel like there's been no backlash, and I feel like I've said some pretty wacky shit. So
it's coming.
The backlash is coming.
Yeah.
You think?
No, maybe.
What did I say that you think is gonna get backlash?
Oh, nothing yet. But you just, if we're hitting the hot button issues, I think
right.
that,
well, yeah, you can't avoid it. It's unavoidable, really, at a certain point.
And since we last recorded, both of us have gone on the road.
Yeah.
You've released a couple songs, right?
Probably.
Because Hypocrite and Polly both went out after we recorded,
I guess
right?
that's true, yeah. Yeah. Polly just came out last week, but...
Mm-hmm. Well, it'll be last month for
yeah,
when people hear this.
But yeah, as we're recording last week.
How do you feel?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm in a good spot. It's weird, just going back and forth. We were on the road for a long fucking time, 5.5 weeks, and it felt really long. It was really hot the whole time. But it was good, no issues really. I mean, not no issues, but you know what I mean? No major issues. Yeah, there's a lot more I could say, but I feel like it's probably not appropriate for the pod.
Okay.
Pete, tell us what you were doing on the road.
I went on the road with my company. We were touring a documentary.
Very cool.
And so we were doing live edits on the road as we were showing it night to night.
What Jamie does.
But then I also came along to shoot vlog content, and so we were putting out
shooting
vlogs.
and editing
as we went along.
Yeah.
And it kind of just made sense because their whole production team was going on the road, and our normal schedule, which might be film a video they send to me, we work on, edit,
right,
put it on social media, just wasn't going to happen while they were on the road. So I was on and off with them throughout, which was nice because most of my job for them has been almost entirely remote. So
did you have a nice time?
I did. It can be a difficult thing.
It is. I mean, my boyfriend's also currently on the road now, and that sucks. It sucks.
It is just a tough thing for when the expectations of relationships are you're going to be home, and I went on the road pretty last minute too.
I also think it's with touring in any capacity, it is sort of the moneymaker for most avenues, most industries, I guess.
Yeah.
Be it touring a documentary, or if you're going on a film festival circuit or something like that, you're away from home a lot, musicians as well. So it's if that's not something that you are totally prepared to do, or something that you knew going into a relationship, or even just friendships or other business partners or whatever, that can be a huge adjustment.
Yeah. I really liked being on the road because I've worked on the road for a couple different jobs, but the first couple jobs I did on the road, the companies I worked for did not necessarily have the resources for us to
actually have a good time.
Yeah. To it, and I was cool with it because I was 22, 23.
Oh, right. I forgot you
doing
did
that world. But going on the road with a company that has resources and makes money and is taking care of everyone.
Great.
So different than going on the road with
somebody just kind of fucking you.
Yeah, or even not even getting fucked necessarily, but just the the little things are all taken care of.
Yep.
Or like just not having to always share a room or do
Right.
like all of the little extra things.
Couldn't be me. I don't know what that's
or
like. But
like overnight, one night we had to go from Charlotte to Boston and we were going to drive it, but we had an edit that we were trying to finish. And so 2 of us got a hotel room and then flew the next day.
oh, beautiful.
Which just like saves some of those guys really trekked out that 13-hour drive, and credit to them. But having resources lets you make decisions that are not always the most difficult decision.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know what that's like, but I imagine it's really great.
Yeah.
To have the resources to do that. I will say we toured fairly comfortably. I mean, it's not like anything horrible, but like, you know, we couldn't just be like, I guess we could really like last minute book a flight if we really needed to, but mostly it's just kind of like get to the next place as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
You know, which can be hard, but yeah, it's a hard life, but I enjoy it. I
yeah,
think
no,
you do too.
I don't know. I liked it. And it was a weird thing for me because I was getting an additional per diem while being on the road. So for like a month period or so, I was making more money than I've ever made in this job. And then there was about a month where I wasn't doing much of anything because there wasn't anything new on the production schedule. And then my company was like, okay, we still don't have anything new on the production schedule. We should probably cut to part-time.
Right.
So I went from making like more than I've ever made to going back to making like half what I was making normally.
Oh shit.
So it's like a weird juxtaposition. I'm still fine. And I'm not like taking on, I had already quit my side jobs. I'm trying my best to not go back to them and holding off on it.
Yeah.
But it is a weird thing to simultaneously like jump into being like, oh wow, this month I'm going to make so much more money. And then now this coming month.
Yeah, that's
like,
hard. That's like kind of where James is at right now too, where it's like now he's making a lot more money than he has in the past, but it's not sustainable. It's like a month and a half.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not sustainable. So it's hard to like plan anything around any of that money other than just putting as much of it away as you possibly can.
Well, and yeah, you just can't change.
You can't change your lifestyle.
As much as I would like to be like, oh, now we're moving to a new apartment or doing these other things.
Right.
No, we can't. But yeah, net positive, I think, in a lot of ways. Especially, it is very interesting working a remote content job because a lot of the conditions of working remote are not ideal, and getting to spend
that's interesting.
a good amount of time in person with my employer, with my bosses, was just really nice to make sure we were still on the same page. And even just like editing in person is so much better than doing it across the country where I'm editing for 6 hours, sending it, waiting for feedback.
Yeah.
Being able to just be there and be like, okay, no, this person's going to jump in and work on the computer now.
Yeah.
So much better.
Yeah, that sounds better.
But we're back to remote. So, you know.
Oh, well, okay.
It is what it is.
I feel like we need to address our change of locale.
Oh, yeah. We are.
I feel like it's like one of those things. It's like they randomly recast someone in the middle of a series and you're like, they're not going to talk about it.
And so the best way to talk about it is you were essentially priced out of your apartment.
Yeah.
Which we've kind of touched on a previous episode. I think we talked about how this was inevitably going to happen.
Right. It did.
But so this is our temporary location. We're working on a studio space, but that studio space may just be a different apartment. We'll find out.
Yeah. That's the glamorous life of being a musician, is that they priced us out, and then they served us and said, you have to be out, because we wouldn't agree on a price that felt reasonable. Do you know what they listed my apartment for?
No.
Did I tell you?
No.
They listed my apartment for $4,500.
Wow. And you were paying what before?
$2,450 was the highest we ever got.
So that's like an 80% increase?
Yeah, so they listed it at $45 in May when we moved out. And then I just looked and they dropped it to $38.
Of course.
But I'm like, even $38 for that apartment is
criminal.
Fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. So now we're here. This is my friend Hannah's apartment. Shout out. Shout out Hannah.
Shout out Hannah.
Hair queen.
Hair queen.
She literally does everyone's hair. It's iconic. She has a baby, so there's a lot of baby shit around. I love the baby, so all the baby shit can stay.
Mm-hmm. And that's our personal update on the pod. We may have a new partner and a radio partner. I don't know.
Yeah, by the time this comes out.
This comes out, it may be official, but I guess we probably shouldn't get too far into it.
Yeah, we shouldn't.
At the moment, because
blow
it's
our
not
load,
official.
as they say.
But that's cool because we put out like 2 episodes.
Yeah, and we got some interest, which was really sick.
Yeah.
So hopefully by the time this comes out, it'll be streaming on your...
In your car.
On your internet.
Yeah.
On your computer.
On your computer.
Your phone. Which I guess it's already
We're killing this right now. We're doing so good.
Yeah, so that'll be a cool update when we can kind of officially make that announcement. But that was cool. Very cool. We do have a guest today.
We do have a guest today.
We just wanted to update you guys on us.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I have pink hair now. I feel like I need to address that. Please address this.
It looks great.
Thank you. Do you ever see people on the internet say to people, please address this? Like,
yes, but I feel like that's usually like allegations, not.
No, it's
pink
like
hair.
It can be like drama. Like, I feel like it happens to drag queens a lot when there's like, because they beef on the internet all the time. I imagine likely more for engagement than reality. But like oftentimes their fans will be like, please address this. And I think it is the funniest thing you can say to someone. Please address this.
Please address this.
I like my pink hair. Please address this.
Well, it's been addressed.
You're
welcome.
Should we introduce our sweet, sweet guest?
Yes. I guess we should just cut.
Yeah,
and she'll be here.
Yeah. Well, please welcome our sweet, sweet guest, star of stage, star of music, star of my heart, Taylor Pearlstein. You're in that shot, so you don't have to do that.
Oh, but I wanted to.
And we'll cut to that one.
And also that shot.
I wanted to. I wanted to be in your camera when you said star of my. What did you say? Star of my heart?
I said star of stage, star of music, star of my heart.
I'm gonna put that in my next bio.
You
for
should.
Sure.
You absolutely should.
Star of stage, star of music.
I'm gonna quote and I'm gonna say Keaton Whitaker. I'm gonna take up however many words
Star of
that is
stage,
in my
star of
50-word
music, star
bio.
of my heart. It's very true. It's very true.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
wow.
thanks for being here.
Well, welcome back to New York too.
Wow, thanks. I've been here for it's like 4 months now. I've been back, right? April.
You got back
mid-April. Mid-April, like yeah, like April.
Oh, I guess that's true.
17th or so.
I was still in my apartment when you got back.
But still, it still feels pretty new. But
how long were you on the road for?
In total, we left August 2022, so like a year and maybe 8 months. It was a long time.
Shit.
For the audience at home, Taylor was in the national tour of Six, the musical.
Yes. And then also just did it on Broadway.
Yeah, Broadway girly, Broadway debut.
So Taylor has had a very interesting year and a half, really. She's also had an interesting past 4 months.
Changes, baby.
Yeah.
It's been good.
Yeah, it's been good.
It's been good summer. Brat summer, baby.
Yeah, it was really a brat summer, I will say.
It was so bratty.
Taylor is my best friend also of about 15 years, so.
Yeah, we have so much lore.
Yeah, the lore is very deep with us.
Yeah.
How has it been having the two of you just back in the same city? I guess you were also on the road for part of that, or no, you've been back since then?
No, I was here April, May, June, and then I left July, August. Taylor came out for like, what, a week and a half?
Like 5 days.
Yeah.
Oh, really? July. Yeah. It was really
on tour with us. It's been great.
So it's nice. It's so, I mean, it's nice to be back in the city with Keats.
It's so much nicer, but
yeah.
It was okay. I mean, we talked a fair amount when you were on the road, I feel like.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
We just both had so much going on that it was like, usually I would call and be like, oh my God, I need to fucking vent about this. And it's like nice because she has no idea. I mean, she knows obviously the people that I'm around, but like, she's not like in it in any way where it's like, and vice versa, where I could be like, oh my God,
the objective
crazy.
voice.
Yeah, the
to
objective
what is
voice where it's like, where you can be like,
well, especially in both your environments, if your company was what, like 8 people, 10 people?
Our company at large, I think, was like 31, 32 people.
Crew included.
Crew included. Yes. But company just cast.
Just cast, there was 10 of us. And then there were 5 band members.
Got it.
Yeah.
And
it's pretty tight.
Yeah, so I feel like when you're in that insulated of an environment where it's like you see the same 20, 25 people every day, it can be good to get a different perspective and voice.
It's essential. I mean, I went on a short tour in 2019. And I didn't do a great job of maintaining my relationships on that tour, it was like 3 months, so it wasn't the end of the world. But I really felt it when I came back. I was like, ooh, I didn't really like
keep up with people, yeah.
And so when I went on this tour, I was like, this is important at first it was like, this is important to me because I don't want to lose these friends. I'm going to be gone for at least a year. And I care about my community. So I really worked hard to like stay in touch with people and call people. I was like pen pals with one of my friends for a while. But then I realized, I was like, oh, this is so essential to my mental health and well-being because a tour like that can become so insular and the problems can feel so massive when every day you're always at work when you're on a tour like that. Like I'm living with the people I'm working with. They're my only community on the road. So we're spending every minute together and the problems just feel so big. And so staying connected with friends like would really ground me in real life. And I think it kept me very sane and rooted to like who I am.
Yeah. You know, I was going to say, what was your experience like doing it on the road and then coming back and doing it on Broadway? Like, did you feel different about it? Like, did you feel like was it easier to maintain kind of your lifestyle? Were you like, oh, I like this? Or do you like being kind of insulated in your job?
There are definitely pros and cons to both. Something I loved about touring was like, it was such an adventure. And I do love having that like tight, it was almost like, I mean, you feel this way on tour too. It's like summer camp.
Yeah.
Like the insular nature is kind of nice sometimes because it's just like I'm falling in love with these people. And we're like, we're going to like pet goats on a farm, and we're like going to do like we're going camping in Michigan. And
how long did you feel like that lasted through the tour? Just in the sense of I get that feeling for 2 months, even 3 months, once you're in city number 6 and however many weeks, and you've been
Little Rock, Arkansas,
every hour with the same like 9 people.
Yeah, I mean, it ebbed and flowed, right? Like I think we had challenges, and there were tensions and things like that. So there were high points and low points and periods where we were all more exhausted and would take space from each other. But it all was very natural. And
was everyone on like the same contract cycle? Like were people
she did it when it opened, right? So.
Yeah, essentially, at least like the cast. Because the crew, I believe they're ongoing. Like they just kind of get their contracts renewed and they get to kind of stay as long as they want. And the cast, we all started the tour together. So yeah, the crew continues, I think, as they wish. The cast, we launched the tour together. So we were all on a year together. And then I think 2 people didn't stay with us through the 6-month extension, but the rest of us stayed. So yeah, we were all in the same thing.
Yeah, just get to know each other so well.
So well. Truly so well. But what I will say, and people ask all the time, and they asked when we were on tour as well, like, oh, what's like the tea? Because I think like if you're in musical theater, like, yeah, you kind of know like tour can be a crazy, crazy culture. It can be really, really wild and can be dramatic, and there can be a lot of tea. But people would ask, I think specifically because we're a group of women and non-binary people, like a lot of femme energy, and I think people wanted to like know if there was drama. But I can genuinely say, I'm not even just saying this, like we didn't have any tea. And I had the same experience with the Broadway queens, like just good people. Everyone's just present and grown up and talented and kind, and when there is tension, they know how to deal with it. Yeah, it was just really good energy.
How would you say it compared to your first experience touring on that level? Like,
you're a lot younger.
I was younger. I was 24 on that tour, I think.
Yeah, that'll 24. Make a huge difference.
And that was also a small cast. There was 10 of us. That one, I mean, kind of similar. I think there were some moments where like we found, and it was the same on 6, like people find their groups. I hesitate to call them cliques because it's not like clicky.
No, it's not like shitty.
It's just like you're that's so natural. Like you find the people you
do
click
everything with everyone every time.
No. And we would do stuff together. Well, absolutely.
Even if you are spending this much time together, at the end of the day, you are still coworkers. Like you are living together, and that is the situation. That is where like the lines get blurred sometimes with theater, and at least with the tour, most tours or the higher grade tours, everyone is getting paid well enough that it's not like we're here sharing a room in like a random town in Ohio and we have to spend every moment together.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like the lines can get blurred a little bit when you're on the road like that, and when you have very few opportunities for connection outside of that group of people.
Yes, it really can. And it was, I honestly think we all did a really good job of maintaining that, especially as a cast. Like, I think it was just an unspoken understanding that like we all had our people who we spent more time with, but like we just had each other. Like every single one of those girls I would have died for.
How many different cities did you go to?
We went to, I want to say like 50 some.
Wow. So how many of those were like true sit downs? How many were like 1 weekers or?
We never did anything less than a week.
Okay.
We did do a lot of 1 weekers and a lot of 2 weekers. Our longest sit was 5 weeks.
Okay.
I know that I left the tour in April, but they did like a few more months, and they did like a 6-week sit in Chicago.
Nice.
But yeah, we did 5 weeks in Cleveland, Ohio, and I really liked it.
Cleveland's cool.
Cleveland's cute. We had such a cute house.
What a funny city to do 5 weeks
I like
in.
Cleveland. Yeah, it sounds like the girls, or the people, I guess, because there's some non-binary folks in there as well. In the cast, you feel like you really had. What was your experience like with the company? Because we talked about this a little bit, I think, in maybe the last episode or the episode before. Well, no, not the last episode. One of the first or second episodes, we were talking about theater in general being sort of built on the exploitation of the casts and how taking advantage of them. And I will say, I know that you guys were on a production contract, correct?
Yeah.
So you guys were paid handsomely and very well, especially because it's a very tight group of people. So that not being an issue, but I imagine that there are other issues, like with, just because I do feel like it's an extremely exploitative industry and it rides on the backs. And in this case, women and non-binary people doing all of the work. So how was your experience there? And you don't have to get into it if you don't want to, but I'm curious.
It's tough. I don't know how into it I want to get. Let me think about it.
Well, especially you're not currently on Six
I'm
Barrel,
not
right?
currently on Broadway,
but
I
you
would like
might
to
go
work
back,
with
yeah.
them
Within the last
more.
2 months, you have been on their payroll. So I
have
get
been on
that's
their payroll.
So you just came off, made your tour, had your Broadway debut. Those are huge accomplishments. Like, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yes.
We talk a decent amount about how few actual living wage jobs there are in the theater. Like,
I said that at the same time.
Yeah, but there are maybe like 500 in New York, including crews, everything else, and that's probably a generous number. Like, being in one of those like very exclusive jobs, how did that leave you feeling about like the pursuit of, now we're back in audition world, now we're back in,
If that even is what you want to be doing.
yeah, is that what you, because I know you also have like a burgeoning music career, you're releasing music, you write music. Where did that put you on a, like, we grow up training to perform on stage, to do all these things. You reached one of those heights that like 1% of performers maybe do. How does that feel?
For me, my experience in general as an artist, I have never been focused on milestones, which I've never really decided if I think that's a good or bad thing. I just have, when people have always asked me like, what are the
Goals,
the check boxes
Yeah.
you want to check, I've never really been able to say. Like, I've always been like, Broadway, super cool, would love that. There are things that I would love to experience, but I think in general, like, for my own like mental health hygiene as an artist and as a human, I've tried to focus on like, what is the like energy I want to keep in my life, like who are the kind of people I want to work with, what are the spaces I want to be in, trying to like be really rooted in community and like what I'm creating and what that experience is like for me and other people. So I'm so grateful when these incredible opportunities come up. Like, getting to be on Broadway was so much fun, and I really worked hard to like be present in that experience because I wanted to appreciate it, and I do appreciate it. But at the end of the day, it wasn't something, I don't feel like a come down from it, because it's never defined at any point. It's never defined what I think of as success as an artist. Yeah. And I like you said, I have so many other things going on. And that's another part of like my hygiene as an artist, is having irons and fires where like auditioning can be really, really infuriating, because you're just kind of like waiting for someone to give you a job, essentially. I mean, like, I have agency there as well in terms of like who I come into the space as, but
there's only so much.
But there's only so much I can do. At the end of the day, like, I'm
do.
waiting for someone to give me a job, and like that's totally okay. And then I have my songwriting. I can do that whenever I want. I can make music with my friends whenever I want. I'm writing a musical with my best friend. Another musical with my best friend. It's like I always have ways that I can exercise agency over myself as an artist, in a career way and also in like a self-fulfillment way. So it all just kind of feels like part of this like exciting wheel of my own life as an artist. And I feel like coming off of Broadway, like that was such a long period of time that I spent with my actor hat on. And I loved that, and that fed me in so many ways. But I didn't have as much time to write. I didn't touch my musical for that whole time, essentially. And so I was just talking to my writing partner, Shannon Molly Flynn. Shout out Shannon Molly Flynn. And I was telling her, I was like, I feel like I'm feeling like, yep, I'm auditioning, I'm doing my music, I want to record stuff, I want to do shows, but I'm feeling like I'm in my composer moment right now. Like this is my time where I have the space and resources, especially resources after saving on tour to write my musical. So I'm kind of just like, let's do that for a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, and your tour was, I don't remember exactly how the categories break down, but it was the first national tour of it?
It was the second
but still
national tour.
Contractually.
Highest tier production.
Highest tier production, right?
Same exact contract. We just went out like 6-7 months after the first one.
That's a huge deal just in the sense of like a lot of these national tours, even the first nationals might be like CETA-based tours or the contracts degrade pretty quickly in terms of what you're getting.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
So that makes a huge difference then too. 18 months at that contract. Do you feel comfortable talking about what that financially looked like?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, in the spirit of high paying job, like talking, what did you say in unison?
Living wage jobs.
Living wage jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, Six is really wonderful. They financially take very, very good care of us as actors.
And they better because they're working your asses.
Very hard show. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
It's very, very difficult.
What did that net out to week to week?
Week to week. Oh yeah, let's get into numbers.
We'll get into
everyone should know, honestly.
But the touring thing is interesting though too, because certain tours will cover your travels, other tours you get a stipend in the city to cover it for you. Like there's like living wage adjustments based on if you're in like San Francisco, like different things based on the cost of the city. And I never hear people actually talk about it.
No.
So
yeah, I mean, let's get into it. Like, let me tell you what I made on Six.
Let's go.
Not
to like watch it to its pocket, but
no,
also
I mean,
like,
do you think this is maybe problematic in any way?
This is like
I don't think so. Especially because
it's my own information to share.
It's your own information, which is why I want to make sure you're comfortable. But also, I'm pretty sure based on the contract designation or like the type. That was why my first question was is those contracts have to be a set minimum anyway, and so that number is semi-available if people really investigate. But
but nobody wants to.
Or no one knows
how to or whatever.
Yeah.
I also just think based on kind of what we spoke about, like I said about the exploitation, where it's like you have 10 people in a company, 4 alts,
4
of which are covering half of your show. That's only 6 people on stage the entire time. They better fucking be paying them out the ass.
But it also helps people understand when we get into like how few of these jobs are actually available.
Right.
Like this is a great contract and is a very good job for any actor working in New York.
I think it's the best job on Broadway. 80 minutes, highest paid tier.
One of the best for sure.
Yeah.
But 10 people in the company, probably 1,000 plus girls aiming for, or 1,000 plus people aiming for this job specifically.
Yeah.
With so many people chasing that, I think it's important to define what that actually looks like when you get there.
Totally. So let me think back to when I started. I think when I began, I started at before taxes, $3,500 a week.
Okay.
And that was not, and then I had a per diem on top of that, which
and what
was
is
about,
that per diem?
I think it's around $1,000. I think, I don't remember if it was the same the whole time, but it was like, I think $966
per week
a week.
Okay.
And that's for food, for housing. They took care of travel.
And is the per diem also taxed out? Is that cash they give you, like, or how does that?
It's
for the people at home who don't understand.
Taxed.
Like per diem is money you get daily to handle while you're on the road.
Yeah, so you're not pulling
whatever.
your necessities out of your actual paycheck.
Yeah. And I don't believe it's taxed.
Okay.
That's great.
Yeah, really great. I mean, but to be so for real, like there was a whole contract negotiation that happened, and we almost went on strike. Actors,
I remember this.
Almost
the
went on
Unite the
strike.
Road. We talked about this
when we were in Philly, I think,
Yeah.
which was spring 2023. We didn't end up going on strike, but it was contract negotiations, and one of the points was we're not getting enough money for per diem because a lot of these cities that you go to, I mean, a lot of our tour we didn't hit like LA or, I mean, I guess I did hit Chicago. But the other tour was hitting these huge cities,
massive
and like
markets, yeah.
Housing's expensive. Like you get an
expensive.
Airbnb, and
Well,
they were
so that
doing
$3,500 does not cover any housing or travel or anything of that nature?
No, that's just paycheck. $3,500 was just paycheck.
And so are you then the person responsible for booking your flights, booking your housing?
Not travel, but housing.
No.
Right?
Well, so we had our company management would always have a travel option and at least 2 housing options, which I believe they're contractually obligated to find. Well, that was at first. I think actually after the contract negotiations, it was only one housing option that they were required to provide. Usually a hotel, but we could opt out if, a certain amount of weeks in advance, and then you could find your own housing options. So often we would do that and like get Airbnbs together. It was more cost effective, and sometimes it's nice to have a kitchen. But even on our tour route, a lot of these places, like we were paying more, like our per diem was not covering living expenses. So
yeah, $966 for a week in like Philly even.
Yeah. No fucking way. No way.
Well,
no fucking way.
Yeah.
Were you still paying for your apartment in New York?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing too. A lot of these actors are going out on tours, and for some of the lower tier tours, like that sounds like a ton of money when you just hear about it from a pure numerical
Numbers
standpoint.
wise, yeah.
But when you think about you're housing yourself in the city of Philly while also paying for an apartment in New York, while also paying your taxes and whatever your daily effective costs are.
And the agent percentage.
Yeah,
Some people have managers too. And your equity fees.
Yeah,
everything.
And that, again, great job at the highest tier. But really quickly it scales down. And there's 10 of those jobs available for the thousands of actors who are pursuing them.
Yeah.
Okay, and so you go through... After the almost strike, did that affect your contract specifically?
Barely.
Mm-hmm.
It affected our contract barely, and I think it affected other tiers greatly.
Cool.
And I wish I could speak more specifically.
Positively or negatively?
Negatively. I think in general, people were not thrilled with the contract negotiations.
Who was going to the negotiating table? Equity?
Equity. Yeah, equity with the Broadway League.
With the Broadway League.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's your first year on the contract. When you extended for 6 months, did that affect your pay?
Yeah, so I got a bump halfway through.
And was that negotiated, or was that just happened?
It was everybody got the same. I think it was favored nations, so we favored nations, and we all essentially were on the same contract.
Well,
like
so
all the
favored
all
nations
the
means that no one can get
more than the other person.
Yeah.
So you and I are getting paid the exact same amount transparently.
Yeah.
Which is also important for transparency. Also an important contract thing if people don't know.
Just important to understand.
Very important to understand.
Yeah.
So there was a scheduled bump at 6 months, so I went up to $37.50 a week, and then when my 6 month hit, is this right? I think I ended the contract at $4 a week. So it went up incrementally where like I also got my final bump was like 3 months into my 6 month extension.
And were you getting bumps? Taylor was an alternate for those who don't know. So she covered 3 tracks of the 6. Did you get bumped when you went on?
Yes. So we were paid whether I went on or not in a week. I was always paid for one bump for performance. That was built into my $4,000. That was built into my $3,500, whatever my paycheck was.
Do you remember what the bump was?
An eighth of my paycheck.
Wow.
So by the time I was making $4 a week, when I would go on 2 times or more a week, I would after the first one, I would make like $500 before taxes for a performance.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's, it was a nice gig.
Well, yeah.
It was a good gig. Yeah, really, really good gig, and I'm very grateful for. I'm grateful for that pay, and it was difficult to walk away from, but it was one of those things that I just kind of had to be like, I could do this forever, but I do have other shit I want to do, so I just got to go.
Well, and I also wonder when you hit that point of, one, you now have financial security that you can live and be comfortable in New York. Like, obviously that money doesn't last forever, but you can have a little more flexibility to not be rushing back to a day job or any of those other things. When that meets up against what it is like doing the same show over and over and over again. Like, and I guess there's a difference as an alternate because you're going on for different girls. You get to do different tracks at least, but was there a point on the road where you were like, okay, as soon as my contract is up, I'm done?
Honestly, for me, no. I really genuinely mean I felt like I could do it forever. I really loved the job. I loved the cast. I loved doing the show. It's so much fun. It's very challenging, and there are obviously pros and cons. But yeah, I felt like I could do it forever.
Have you ever gotten a paycheck like that either, week to week?
No.
So yeah,
and I don't know if I ever will again.
That is a hard thing to give up when you
Very challenging.
But it's a really bold thing to do, I think, especially as an artist. Like, I think you do have to make those hard decisions, especially in shows that we call them government jobs. Like in a show like Wicked or in a show like Book of Mormon, where you just know it is going to fucking run forever. Chicago, where you're like, you're good. That is a government job. Your job is not going fucking anywhere.
Yeah.
And I feel like 6 will shape up to likely be one of those as well, because it's so popular. And I imagine the cost of putting it up is actually fairly low, because there's not.
Well, it's why they can afford to pay their actors so well, because it's your production cost can't be that high with 6 actors on stage and 4 additional
and no set really.
Yeah.
You know. Not like massive set pieces or whatever. But I'm like, yeah, I think it is a really, really hard thing for a lot of people to walk away from, because it's the only real sense of stability they've gotten in their artistic career probably ever. But
it's also not typical for a lot of these first national tours. Might be getting like $1,200 to $1,400 a week at the starting point. Like, it is a huge drop off from, I do want to clarify too, just that is not a super typical rate, because everyone on a principal rate.
We were all on a principal rate, and that's why we were being paid so much.
Yes. 6 is I think one of the only, if maybe the only production contract out right now.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah, no,
Wicked. I mean, Wicked's gotta be.
Are out.
Wicked is not a production contract.
Really?
No way.
Yes.
I think the Hamilton companies are, and I know the new tour of Evan Hansen is not, because they closed the production contract.
Well, there were 2 Wicked tours out. One of them closed. The other, I think, I'm fairly certain.
I'm not tuned in well enough to know, but it is one of the best jobs available for sure.
For sure.
Oh, definitely. I mean, production contract is really the
a lot
the
of them
highest
are also
you can
going
do.
Fucking non-union.
Yeah.
As well, which
is a whole thing in itself.
A whole fucking thing. But
there's also a trend that there are companies that are going on non-union tours as a soup up to see if there is interest in a Broadway run. So they start non-union a year into the tour. If the numbers are good enough, they go union.
That's fucking reprehensible.
They just did that with, they're doing that with one of the Sound of Music tours that they're hoping will eventually come back to Broadway.
Because what are you going to do with all those actors that you hire for fucking 18 months, 2 years?
They're bringing 1 or 2 of them into the union company, and those people get rewarded. And I don't know the exact numbers. I do know at the Sound of Union Company, some people are being brought in and some people are being cut loose, essentially, as they transfer to a union tour. And that was an international tour, I think. So it started non-union. I think they were still getting paid pretty well. We don't need to get into the weeds of all of that. Okay, so you do the tour, you end your contract, you're back in New York. How long is it until Broadway comes calling?
Broadway came calling.
Can you tell the story of how you found out? It was really funny.
Yeah. So, yeah. So,
not the whole story.
Wait, what'd you say?
I said, not the whole story, but
there's so much context to my life right now. Okay.
Just a part of it.
Came on.
So Broadway,
you all wish you could get the tea. I'll give you some of it. I came off the tour mid-April, and it was mid-August. I think like August 8th. It was August 8th. It was your birthday.
It was the day before.
It was August 7th, the day before Keaton's birthday. I was staying in Keaton's. I was staying in this apartment. And I mean, I don't know, what part of the story did you want me to tell?
Just the fact that you were going to come down to Philly. That we were having a birthday party.
Well, it was Keaton's birthday. And I was like...
I was on the road at the time.
Yes.
With Sad Summerfest.
And we were in Philly, which was like an hour train.
Yeah. And so I was going to take the train out and see her for her birthday. And so I was kind of like going through my day. And actually, it was funny because earlier that day I was texting with a friend who was like going down the rabbit hole of my bootlegs and was like texting me about it. And they were like, oh my God, like I'm so mad I missed this. Like I would kill to see you in this. I'm so mad. Like this is crazy. And we were talking about it. And they were like, what's the next show you're going to do? And I was like, who knows if I'll ever work again? Like we had this whole text moment. Not even like 2-3 hours later, I'm like standing in the kitchen and my phone rings and it's the general managers of 6. And they were just like, hey, like, are you around? We need someone to come sub for a couple weeks. Can you be in rehearsal tomorrow? And I was like, yeah, I'm there. And I literally texted them and I was like, you will never believe who just called. Broadway, baby. Broadway called. So
she calls me and she's like, I'm still going to come down, but I do have a bit of a snag. I can't stay for the show tomorrow. And I was like, why? And she was like, because I have to go to rehearsal for Broadway.
What is beautiful about Philly is it is a quick train ride.
Yeah. Quick train ride. I came back at like 10 a.m. the next day. I had rehearsal at like 2. It was perfect.
Yeah.
And then I did, I mean, the company, the whole building on Broadway is just angels. Everybody there. I just love them all. They made the whole experience so easeful and wonderful. But I had a spacing rehearsal that Thursday on Keaton's birthday. And one of the principals was out, so they were rehearsing me for that track in case I needed, because I think they primarily wanted extra coverage for that role. And
so is this technically a vacation swing contract, or what was the designation?
I was just, I think, a temporary alternate. I was just an alternate. I was contractually, the writer had me covering all 3 of my tracks.
Okay.
So should they need me for any of them, they put me on it. Ended up doing 2 of them.
And how long were you with the company?
2 weeks.
Great.
And I got to do 8 shows.
Oh, shit.
Well, so they rehearsed me I did the spacing rehearsal Thursday. Friday, finished spacing for that track for Catherine Parr, who's the 6th wife. And then I did a run through with the alternates on stage. There were like 3 or 4 other alts, I think 3 other alts. So we did 4 instead of 6. And then the next day, the stage manager on Saturday came into my dressing room and was like, how did you feel yesterday? And I was like, I honestly feel like I could do the show whenever you need me to. I feel really good. And she was like, great, we feel the same way. We want to give you 4 shows next week. And so I got to do 4 as Catherine Parr, which was really lovely. My parents flew in. They got to be there for my Broadway debut.
It was amazing.
My alternate sister, Jana Glover, is working on Broadway right now. She's a dance captain and she covers 4 tracks now, but we were on tour together. I'm so proud of her. And so she was there and she got to she was doing her dance captain thing. She brought me my flowers at the end. It was so lovely. It was really sweet. There's such a cute picture on my Instagram of us, of her giving me the flowers, and it's really lovely.
Beautiful.
And then I got to do a couple shows as Catherine Howard because I didn't get a rehearsal for that one. I did a spacing rehearsal, but I didn't do a run of that. I just kind of went into it.
You did great.
And I did 2 of those, and then they ended up needing me on my last day. It was a 2-show day, and they ended up needing me for Catherine Parr that day. So I got to finish out doing 2 more shows.
And so when they call you the day before, is that do you just call your agents and say, they asked me, have your agents already been how does that contract work if you're coming in for 2 weeks?
Well, I was in kind of a special situation because my agency died. Not my agent. My agent's alive and well. My old agent is so alive and well, and I love her so much. And we were together for 7 years. I signed with her the spring of my senior year of college. And she was just the best. And but I was with Abrams Artists, which A3, rest in peace. They went down in the spring, and so I kind of was looking for new representation. Now I'm with the Mine, and they're fabulous. But I because they didn't negotiate that contract, it just was kind of on me. So it just all came to me. And toward the end of 6, when Abrams went away, my old agent called me and she was like, hey, by the way, since Abrams is no more, you tell them to stop putting aside 10% of your paycheck. That should just go to you now.
Oh,
so
nice.
For the last few months of my contract, I did not.
You were clearing
I was
10%.
it was just I think $500, something, $250 a week or something. It was nice to not have to. Obviously, it's worth it, to pay an agent because they do
of
that
course.
Work. But it was.
But
when you've secured the job and you don't have the agent relationship yet,
so I imagine any future work I do with 6 will function that way.
Cool.
That's kind of iconic.
Which
Did you get a nice bump for being on Broadway?
I got my same salary.
Okay.
So yes, I mean it was great. It was really great,
Well,
and I got those bumps for going on for. I mean, I did 6 shows. I did 5 shows the first week and 3 shows the next week. So I got 6 bumps total, which is pretty nice. So, but mostly it was just really fun, and it was really I did the show for 2 years. It felt like no sweat. It was wild going onto that stage and looking around on my Broadway debut and being like, I have not done the show with any of these 5 women ever in my life. I do not. They've never done it with me.
Not in 4 months.
It was my first time doing the show in 4 months. I was like,
let's
go. It was so good. I'm really proud of myself,
Theater
honestly.
people really are incredible in that way, that they really just get thrown into some wild circumstances.
And I learned being an alternate. And listen, I love being an alternate in a swing. Like, it's challenging in great ways. I, in my heart, would love to be like a principal, you know? But I really learned that I got a brain for it. Like, I am calm. I'm collected. If I mess up, I'm fine. Like, I really love it.
How did you deal with that? Had you done the alternate thing before? So how is that adjusting? Because I know people who've done that on the road or have done that in New York and have had very mixed experiences, have had tough times, whether or not like the brain is built for it, even just on the emotional level of not knowing when you're going to go on. It can create, I know people who it's created tension between cast members, even just not knowing when you're going to go on. What was that like? How did you deal with that emotionally and manage it?
Yeah. Well, the most difficult time I had with it was very early on, because when the contract started, when we like hit the road, none of us had gone on, obviously, and so it was just kind of like the four of us were waiting, like, okay, who's gonna go first? And we got to St. Paul, Minnesota, and which is maybe like a month into tour or so, and everybody went on that week for multiple tracks except for me. Like, it was, and I it got to a point where like every single night, like I probably watched Six Musical 5 times in a row because I was watching my friends debuting and I like wanted to see them debuting and I was so proud of them. But by like the 5th night, I went to them and I was like, I love you guys so much. I can't watch this show again. I'm going to lose my mind. And then also I was dealing with like really difficult emotions around it because I was like, oh my gosh, like everybody else is getting to do this and I'm just kind of sitting here, and it was really sad. I remember crying in Catherine Parr and Catherine Aragon's dressing room to them because they had both been swings in their careers, and so they were really supportive and they understood. It was just, I was like, I'm not even jealous. I'm not even angry.
Like,
I was just like, I wanted it. I wanted to do it. I wanted to be a part of this club. I got to see everyone being celebrated, and I was like, I just want to break the ice. But then literally that week I got to go on and make a debut, and so that was really the most difficult period of time, but I had a good support system there. Besides that, like, we talked about it a lot as alternates, and even with the onstage queens, like, we just were kind of chill about it. We did get, we got a lot of opportunity to go on. So I think that was part of it as well, but we just didn't, there was no animosity. You share, so each queen has 2 covers. So like me and Jana shared Catherine Parr together, and so we just would alternate. We would just rotate depending on the needs of the company, depending on like who's got to go on last, and that was up to the stage manager. But we just like never really struggled with that. And I think some people are better at dealing with it than others, and I don't think that's a character flaw or anything at all. No, I think it's just it's a difficult thing, and like
very few companies growing up, unless you were working professionally as a kid, are operating with understudies and covers, and I feel like it is not something a lot of people get to experience until they're in their professional career doing it, and so it is a different emotional navigation.
I was going to ask, what do you know the reason why they chose to call them alternates versus swings? Because I think that's an interesting distinction to make.
I think, the show's from the UK, so I don't know if maybe they use alternate. What do you know, like how that functions on the West End? Because I wonder if the terminology just kind of comes from that. Also on the West End, and I do think maybe they've changed it, but the alternates would have scheduled performances, I believe, and so I think that's why it was called that. Is like I think each onstage queen would get one show off a week.
I was gonna say that's probably,
and so that's probably why, because they were actually literal alternates. They would have scheduled shows, which we did not have scheduled shows unless vacations. But I think it's interesting to keep it that way, because it doesn't put you in the category of like swings. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I think swings across the board are like A, the most valuable person in the company, B, the hardest working, and C, usually the most talented, simply because they have so much more ground to cover. They're definitely like, you just have to wear more hats.
Logistically the most important person in the building for sure, but like
it's fun being a hero for sure.
Totally. And also just like moving forward, like were you to having a person that knows 4 tracks versus a person that knows 1 track, like who's getting called for Broadway more often? They're calling alts because they need people that cover 4 tracks. So it's just like an interesting, I don't know, I think it's an interesting distinction to make, swing versus alternate. Not that they're really, the job is any different, but
no.
I
will say too that like the principal experience and the alternate experience are so challenging and difficult in their own ways.
I'm sure.
Like doing a show 8 times a week, the same role, the duress on your body, on your voice, on your brain, like it's just a lot to maintain. So like there's that. And then an alternate, you always have to keep your body ready. You have to be ready for multiple things at once. You have to be thrown into any situation, and you can be thrown on mid-show and have to do okay. So they both have different sets of like, you know, challenges.
How has your experience been coming back from tour and on tour as well on the internet? Like, has that changed a lot? Has your experience changed a lot? Like, yeah. I mean, Six is a brand, and like I was associated with that for like 2 years essentially, and I still am associated with it, but like it did kind of fuck with my algorithm, which is like, again, I really have a boundary up with social media where I'm like, this is my business space. I really don't let it affect I work hard not to let it affect my self-worth.
When you say it fucked with your algorithm, what do you mean?
So like, okay, so there's a video that I posted. Where was this? When did I post this? Probably like summer 2023, maybe. And it's a video of me doing, you know, the song. What song is it? Got a White Boy on My Roster. Have you seen me Pasta and Lobster? That one. You know, that one. I did the dance to that, and in my Boleyn costume, and Catherine of Aragon's in the bathroom in the background. She's not in the bathroom. She's in the background, like lip syncing and like what, which is also like the dynamic there. It was just a good video, really good video. Went like, it did good numbers. Like I think it's at like 50K on TikTok, and then it also is like maybe 60K on Instagram when I posted it. I wouldn't call it a mistake, but I, as Taylor Pearlstein, my brand is not dancer. My brand is not I make dancing videos ever. So that blew up. That's the most, besides like a song that I posted, a clip of me singing a song for my musical, which did like, I think like 150K or something on TikTok. Besides that, that's like kind of my biggest video. I hesitate to call it viral. 45K doesn't really feel viral, but
It's all scales though too, because to the normal person posting that is incredibly viral.
Totally, and I'm grateful for it. And so what happened was I got a lot of followers on TikTok, but I got a lot of followers on Instagram. I went from like 6K to like 10K within the span of like a couple weeks, which was fabulous. And I was out all this new traffic, all this attention, but Instagram learned, this is what Taylor does. This brought all this traffic to this site.
Well, all those
Six
people
and
are
musical,
like Six
dancing,
fans, yeah.
yes, and or just like people who like dancing or people who like the costume or whatever it was. So when I post Six content, my Instagram is like, yes, we love you, yes, and I get like, you know, 1,000 likes on a post or whatever or more. But when I post my music, it still does okay, which is what use your and I wouldn't. Platform for. It's just challenging, right? Because it's like, I want my platform to encompass everything that I am as an artist, which includes my musical theater stuff, and it includes my music, and it includes my musical, and it includes my friends and my community and all this stuff. But that's just not how the internet works anymore. Like being a multifaceted creator is very challenging because the internet, the algorithm wants you to be this thing. They want Taylor to make video. They want me to make that video. They want me to make dancing videos in a sparkly green, pink, blue costume till I die. And that's the only way that they seem to want to reward me. And that's okay. Like, I'm at peace with it, where I'm like, I'm grateful. It got me. Listen, like, it looks good. It's also like, again, business perspective on social media. Having that K on the end of your number of followers looks good. I got a blue check mark from Six as well, because I, you know, had print publications around the country, also from Cruel Intentions, also from, like, you know, I had stuff. So I got the blue check mark and I got the K on the end of my number on my profile from Six. But like, at what cost?
So here's the thing. I hear you, because we've talked about this before. I think it is a useful thing to have in your back pocket, to know those like musical theater girlies are there for you to ride if you ever need to use it.
That if you need numbers.
It's a strategic thing, because we talk about this with,
and I've been thinking about it.
She hates the like carry virality of it all, but I was like, we have that if we ever need to. There's a way to get an easy 20,000 likes plus.
Well, and even one of your first singles with Daisy Grenade, you used Carrie as like a visual, like the artwork.
Again, if you do
and that
it
probably brought some attention to it.
It works.
Yeah.
And
it's
so
like 1 million views on TikTok.
Yeah.
No, because it is a funny thing. I have the same thing from my like political comedy days where like earlier this week I was at a wedding. Or last week I was at a wedding and I like randomly fired off a tweet about something random political I saw. And I checked back and it had like 2,000 likes. I was like, what?
Forget.
And I forget that like my audience there is built around like political comedy. So something that I just like fired off. Like I was like, oh, right. That is what that audience is.
Yeah. I've been thinking a lot about recently, like social media. A lot. You've heard about climbing Cringe Mountain, right?
What?
I have not heard about climbing Cringe Mountain.
I thought this was like no. Let me tell you about climbing Cringe Mountain. Jamie's heard about climbing Cringe Mountain. It's this thing that people say on the internet, like if you want to blow up, if you want to be Lady Gaga, if you want to be Chappell Roan, if you want to be, if you want to blow up, you have to be willing to be cringe for a while. You have to be willing to post the cringe I agree with content. And be okay with maybe getting 20 likes. Be okay with, but if you keep doing it, you climb that cringe mountain, eventually you'll make it over. And suddenly, like, people love your cringe.
Well, what I also have to say about, because I agree with that 100%. Like, you have to be able to
brave,
lean into
though.
that. Well, you just have to be able to lean into it and recognize it's not going to be for everyone. You have to kind of, especially like us trained in musical theater world, you have to get past how musical theater people view things and like turn off caring about how people view things. Yeah. But also, I think there's a certain amount of bravery that just comes to, I like to think of TikTok especially, but most social media now is built a little bit like a slot machine, where if you hit it enough times, you're going to hit the jackpot. But a lot of times you pop it and you get 3 different numbers and it's like, oh, I put everything into this video. I think it's set to go viral. Doesn't. I just like a month ago was back in California. I'm in a fantasy football group that every year we...
Freak. I'm just kidding.
It's like the only time I see these guys from my high school we get together. But a couple years ago, we do a challenge or we do a punishment every year for the loser. And so a couple years ago, I did a video on the guy who got punished because he had to wear like a court jester costume the entire time we were in Vegas. And I
like
did
in
a
the pool, right?
Yeah, well, he did it all over. But I posted a video of it, went viral. And so now since then, they've been like, oh, we should try and make this like a viral punishment every time. I didn't do it last year. And this year I was like, okay, cool. We're going to go viral again. Like we're in it. I know all the elements. Made the video. Did
nothing.
Crickets.
Yeah.
But that just happens. Sometimes where it's like
you have to try.
You have to pull the slot machine.
It's like we've literally, Jamie and I have literally talked about this. How it's like when we had our King for Day go viral, and this was like we went really viral. There was like 8 million to 10 million views across platforms, and everyone I think at the label was like rehearsal footage. That's what does it. We do it again, crickets. Like it does not. It has
to be like a perfect storm of things, and
right.
It's hard to guess what that is.
It's like I talk to people at my label, and they have meetings with TikTok every week, and the TikTok execs don't know how it works. Mm-hmm. No one knows how it fucking works. So it's like, really the only way to do it is just to post what you think is funny, or like what you think is cool.
Well, I think it's a mix. I think you have to fine tune because there are, especially in like short form content, you
can go with some sort of formulaic way
for
of doing
whether
it,
it's on YouTube, hacking for attention in your first 30 seconds, like
sure.
paying off the title and
things
thumbnail,
like that. But
whatever.
I mean like generalized, like whatever kind of content you want to make, you do have to kind of just go for it.
You have to trial and error a lot.
Yeah,
and you have to be
I'm really trying to do more of. I'm trying to be braver. It's just difficult because I mean, perception is just like one of my greatest challenges in life. I think it's one of everybody's greatest challenges in life. Yeah. But I'm really trying to be better at like also like not being afraid to exploit myself. As weird as that sounds.
I want you to expand on that because what do you mean?
Okay, well, like talking about Six, like if I'm promoting music or like I have a show coming up on October. This podcast is coming out after that. I hope you came to my show on October 2nd, Brooklyn Made. It was really fun seeing you there. But I think about it sometimes where I'm like, okay, I could probably make a video where I'm like, I was a queen in Six the Musical and I'm also a music artist and you should listen to my music or you should come to my show, like come see me do what else I do. Like there's probably ways for me to do that. I just like, it's so difficult for me to not feel not cringe at myself, and I hate that because they say kill the part of you that cringes, and like
it's tough,
not the cringe, kill the part of you that what am I saying?
I understand what you mean. You're being clear with anything.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to do more of that. And I'm like, I could do that. And that would probably tie together the algorithm in a good way. And maybe I need to hire someone to do that because I also just like, it's such an... Jamie said no. Jamie's out. Jamie's too busy. Jamie says my workload is too big. But yeah, you know what I mean? Like there are ways to do it. I just like, I get embarrassed.
It's embarrassing.
It's cringe. It's cringe mountain and I want to climb it. And I feel like I'm ready to do it.
But also, are you embarrassed by the music that you put out?
Sometimes. No.
I knew you were going to say that.
Because I
Keaton knows I struggle with that.
I think the way to find conviction in that a lot of the times, and can be tough, is to really radically believe in what you're doing. Because the more you believe in the thing,
I think that's more your crux,
easier
than
it
perception.
is. Because I think
Not
the
to
more
psychoanalyze you on the
you
pod.
can be confident in the fact that you are talented and your music is good and you like it and there's a reason why you are putting it out, that it makes it easier to not cringe at yourself. Like I think the cringing is natural.
Sometimes I think you are like sitting there going, "This is bad," and everyone hates it.
Well, yeah, Keaton, this is like therapy right now. Yeah, you really know because it's something I have to challenge myself to do with my own art, where I make something and I love it. I love it, love it, love it. But then I start to think about other people seeing it, and I'm like, oh, maybe this is really bad.
That's a little bit the social media effect, though, too, where you can love something in your room and then you publish it and you go, "Oh my God, this is so."
Well, I was talking with someone about this. Someone who was pregnant, I think. We were talking about how because this is connected. Because we were talking about like how I was talking about my sister-in-law. She's pregnant, yay. But talking about how like when you like have this thing that you create and it's like yours and it's like in my I'm not comparing making songs. Well, I am comparing making songs to being pregnant.
Oh my God,
like
I
having a
watched
baby.
an interview where Remy Wolf did this exact same thing.
Well,
Cinderella
it's exactly
is literally about that.
Yes, it's like you have
birthing
this
a
thing,
song.
you have it and you made it and you love it and it's yours and it's no one else's. And like you get to share it when you want, like maybe you play it at shows, maybe you show it a friend, but like it's yours. And then when you release it, like I was talking to someone else. I'm mixing up conversations because we were talking about just like the dread of when a song releases and how like once it's out, it's like the worst day actually. Cause a friend just recently dropped a song. We were like, how do you feel? How was release day? And he's like, I hate it. I'm having a horrible day because it's just this feeling of like suddenly I'm exposed. This thing that I love isn't mine anymore. I can't change it.
So
it's fixed. It's on like it's specifically it's like the Spotify thing. It's like it's out there. It's fixed as this forever. And like it doesn't feel. It's like you hear mothers saying sometimes they have the instinct to like want to put the baby back inside of the womb because it's like be mine again. Like now you're out in the world and I can't protect
can I be
you.
Controversial.
Yeah, always.
I was gonna say I feel quite literally exactly the opposite. I don't feel like euphoric on release days because usually they go worse than I want them to. In the way of like, you know what I mean?
Universal
like
experience.
I've never been like, yes, we did it. I've always been like, okay, well that's all right. You know, I've never been like horrifically.
I'm like burn
disappointed.
it with fire. I'm like take it down.
Oh,
scrub
no.
me from the face of the earth.
That's so interesting.
Like I said, I'm never like hell yeah. Except for I will say, well, my life was ruined because the first song we ever released was on New Music Friday America. And it got like 10,000 streams in the first 3 hours.
That is the tough thing of
and I was like, kill myself.
my current social media job. The very first video I ever posted for them on
Yes, I
TikTok
remember this.
got like 2.5 million likes. So it was like 17 million views, and they went up 100,000 followers on the first day. And they were like,
You set the bar.
"Oh, you're so good at
They were
this."
like,
And I
"You
was
deserve
like,
an Oscar."
"I promise you, I know what I'm doing, but this won't."
But this was a fluke.
This will.
Yeah.
And literally, I don't think I've ever hit those numbers again.
Did you feel that pressure the whole rest of the job?
Well, I still think I do a pretty decent job for them. Like, but it just was one of those things that I knew immediately that I was not going to hit those numbers again. Like,
we literally had a friend of a friend who works at a music place that I will not name. A music place? Not like a record store, but like a management company. And she was like, I'll help you pitch. I'll show you how I pitch on Spotify, basically, which is amazing because it's a really great formula. After that, so that got on, Baby Blackout got on New Music Friday, which is great. And we're talking about playlisting, I imagine, kind of, where it's like what you're really looking for is big editorial Spotify playlists because those are the only place the streams come from organically, even though it's like 3 guys in an office gatekeeping. But
My
that
new
said, please
favorite
gatekeep
Broadway play.
us. Put Polly into that.
Please
this
gatekeep
week.
us. You're probably gonna want to cut that out because I do know those three guys. But and when you realize that, it's kind of like shocking, and that there's like kind of a formulaic way to pitch, right? And like pre-saves help with that, obviously, and like TikTok helps or whatever. But you're looking at these Spotify playlists, just fucking hoping and praying that they're on there. So the first one being on literally the world's biggest playlist.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's very exciting, but it does ruin you.
The world's biggest playlist, the most saved playlist in the world. And it's like, it did fine. It was like number 49 out of 50. So it's like, no one's really scrolling down, but people save it, which really helps. So that obviously did really well. And then I pitched on my own that whole rest of that EP, Cult Classic. I think I pitched completely on my own when we originally released it. Not when we re-released on the label, but when we did it. And I got us the cover of fucking New Noise.
I remember that.
And I was like,
I
I pitched that shit by myself. Which is also like, there's something about that ruins your brain a little bit. Mm-hmm. Where you're like, oh, I pitched this myself. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I followed a formula that someone taught me.
That is the thing about the slot machine nature of social media, though, is you have to take the jackpots with the, like, we hit 3 X's there. Like, it.
Well, what I was going to say, though, is like, and maybe this also speaks to the difference in the kind of music that we write. I think it may.
I was going to mention
because I very, very rarely write from a personal place. Or I take something like an inkling of something personal and blow it up into something else, and it becomes its own thing. So
I write very personally.
Right, where you write really personally. And the ones that have been very personal to me were harder, for sure. And I imagine going forward as they become, because we were kind of verging into writing more like that. But like, Cult Classic was so like its own little epoch of like 2 almost like characters. So it felt like a little bit less. But my point is, the reason that I really like putting music out, and I do stand by this, that I think that you should never be precious about putting things out, because everything is fucking digital and you can take it off the internet whenever you fucking want. Mm-hmm. So there's that. But there is something really beautiful about that exchange of like energy where when it is something very personal, like Left 4 Dead is kind of the one that I'm thinking, and we haven't commercially released that yet, but we do it sometimes on tour. And there's something really nice about giving that to other people and being like, can you hold this for me?
I also think on a level of, I don't necessarily have the same experience on a music level. I've released some random bits of music throughout my life.
Slay King, plug it.
No. But even on I, as someone who records a lot of video, edits a lot of different things, and am publishing either through my company or through myself pretty much every day for the past like 5 or 6 years,
yeah.
I get a really uneasy feeling about stuff that is sitting, that like we were sitting on the first 5 episodes of this podcast for months.
Oh, sitting on shit.
It gets stale.
Horrific.
It not only can get stale, but like I actually like wasn't even feeling stale about the episodes, but I don't like
sitting on
something that's
fucking
60
horrible.
to 80% edited, even if it's done, if it's not there, like, so for me, putting it out can be the
release.
That's the release, and I'm done.
That's how I feel too. And I feel like it's, like I said, like it's literally asking a group of people to, however personal it is or how silly it is or whatever, is saying like, there's obviously that fear where it's like, oh, I just opened up my heart to you, and what if you hate it? But I think ultimately, whether it's love or hate, you're giving, it sort of feels like you're allowed to just let go of it at a certain point.
I've gotten better as I've gotten older too about depersonalizing.
It feels less about, it's not about me.
Because I've played the slot machine enough times, I don't feel like it is a personal indictment of myself if something doesn't hit the numbers I want it to.
I
and
think that's what it is
I've become much more analytical, in part because it's my job too, of, okay, this video, we wanted to get 1 million views, got 600,000. What are the things that are different in the first 30 seconds that made it fuck up? What are the elements that we felt a little uneasy about in the edit that probably didn't hit? Or what are the, like, I've
really
gotten a lot better at critically looking at it and saying like, and just identifying like, oh, this video got 15 million likes or 15 million views, 2 million likes, even downscale, this got 1,000 likes. Why?
That's so how your brain works too, though.
Yeah.
You're so pragmatic in that way. And I feel like when it comes to releasing music, I'm also fairly pragmatic, where I'm kind of like, okay, like, yeah, I'm looking at this on short term and long term, like what this is going to do for the band, where and there are things like, I think we've talked about this a bit too, where it's like there are things that you, I think, can fold on, where it's like, I don't love this one, I'm not obsessed with this one, or whatever. You never know, but that's part of it, I think, is then giving it to people and say, okay, well, what do you think?
Well, and
you know what I mean?
I will
shooting
say
fucking shit at the wall
on the slot machine level of like, you never know exactly what's gonna pop, but I have been working in the like industry long enough, or like across the creative field and on the internet long enough, that there is very, very rarely I see something that I don't understand why people
did it.
Like,
right, sure.
whether or not I like it myself, there are very few things I see that I don't understand why it's huge. Like I feel like I can see the thing and understand, like, that
makes sense.
I feel like there's so many like viral artists where people will be lamenting on Twitter or whatever, be like, why do people like this person? I'm like, oh no, I totally get it.
Yeah, I totally get it.
Might not be my cup of tea,
right?
But
which you can also just stay quiet about, weirdly enough.
Yeah, imagine that.
Imagine that.
Crazy.
So you, getting back to your music, obviously you're playing a show coming up, but how is that going from you're playing someone else's music every night, you're getting paid very nicely to do it, to coming back and saying like, here is my work, my creative like child,
my baby.
What is that like for you?
My baby.
It's so different. I feel when I go on stage in like a musical as an actor and a character, I don't get nervous.
What?
But when I
you don't get nervous at all?
Sometimes I feel like the energy.
Yeah,
that's not me
like
shaking.
scared.
That's me like buzzing. Sometimes I feel like this, but I'm not nervous. It's mostly just the adrenaline. But I don't know what it is. I feel protected when I'm in a character. Like, not
that's crazy.
Me.
I'm like, every time I go on stage for anything, I'm like, I'm gonna vomit right now.
No, like even Broadway, like Broadway debut, I was so like, before the curtain opened, I was just like, I was buzzing, but I was like, I got this.
Oh my God, I get so nervous. I feel like I could pass out.
On a level of like, even on I obviously have not been on Broadway, other than a one night in University of Michigan performance.
That makes one of us.
True. I performed at the August Wilson Theater as a part of a.
What were we saying after I got the call on Broadway? Like, have you ever met two best friends? What was it?
I said, have you ever met two best friends with 2 blue checks and 2 Broadway credits?
I hate us. We're rancid.
So as the one non-Broadway person,
cut it out. No, keep it in.
But I do understand on a just stage level, if
Leos.
you're not the person who wrote it or anything else, like,
yes.
it for me, a lot of it just comes down to like, am I prepared? I feel prepared. Great. And
great,
like,
I'm good.
When I was still performing a lot on stage, like the only stress dreams I ever had were like, oh, I'm not prepared.
Yes,
to go
where
you're
like trying to cram the lines and you're like getting into costume.
But if I knew my shit, I was drilled. I had that. Like, I feel like I was like, cool. I don't have to worry about the nerves of this thing.
Like you were talking about how personal, like you feel depersonalized from the music you release a lot of the time, and I think that's the difference for me. Is like, it's not personal. It's not my baby that I'm taking. I mean, it's someone else's baby I'm taking care of when I'm going on for Catherine Howard.
Yeah.
But when it's like my music and I'm releasing it on the internet or I'm playing a show, it takes a little bit more work for me to like shake out the nerves. And like, there's something about standing on a stage in front of a venue of people and like sharing my story through music that I love, and I gotta do it. But like, ooh, it's hard to look people in the eyes.
So
it's really difficult. But I'm getting better at it. Like I've really recently been.
I feel like you're dropping the fucking.
I'm working hard at it, honestly. I think I've kind of just like gotten fed up with my bullshit, and I'm just like, and I'm surrounded by friends who remind me of who I am and what I do, and also like cherish my art in a way that like, it's really nice to have like people like Keaton who believe in what I do and remind me of that. And that's why community is like, so important on a personal level. But I've been working really hard to like, I mean, I have a friend who many, many years ago, I remember having a conversation with him about the experience of playing music live and like not feeling great about it. And he was just so simply like, well, 1, just stand in front of your mirror and play your songs to yourself. And 2, never play a song on stage that you don't love to perform, period. Yeah. If you don't like, you can love the song, but if you don't love performing it, don't do it.
Also, same with releasing songs. Don't fucking release anything you don't like.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, I've held on to that for a long time. And now, like, as I build my set list and stuff, I'm like, if this isn't feeling good to play, I'm cutting it. I'm not doing it.
Beautiful.
And I'm really excited for the show that's coming up because I've also like I've started like building bands that aren't just white cis men, like hetero men, and like now I have like a all queer female non-binary band that I'm about to play with. And that just feels like I've always thought that I was bad at being a band leader, but I was like, I just wasn't.
Dudes behind you being
and
like,
that's not to say that the guys I was playing with were shitty at all. Like, you know, like they're wonderful, wonderful people. It's just there's something energetically about it. Like getting to be in a room with people like me and like talk to them about my music is just I am a band leader and like I can do that.
I mean, you know, not to give them too much credit, but I'm like, I think there are men that can let you lead like that, and there are men that cannot.
And
so
but
it's like,
to be fair to those men who I've worked with who might be watching, and I love you all. I think general. It was my no, totally. I think that I kind of think a lot of it was my own relationship with men, with like my own socialization. So which is both of our faults to a certain extent. But there's something that I needed to work
growing
through.
up too and getting older.
Yeah, growing up, like I was in my early 20s, like when I was
and
doing that a lot. And
also, it's intimidating. Men can be like really fucking intimidating.
They can be intimidating, and like even if they're not, like again, they were really wonderful, like working with me and like open to things. But I just had like this energetic difficulty with it. So
and it's not really
and also
their
growing
fault,
up, you're right, like getting older and just like dropping into stuff, and I'm really But
I think curating a band for what you need energetically.
Yeah.
Is like gonna be so fucking helpful.
Well, and also like I've like with releasing music and the kind of music I've been making, I have some stuff out that I really, really love. None of it has really felt like totally right. And like even my most recent EP, I
wonder if anyone feels like that.
Yeah.
If anyone ever feels like they've really done exactly what they were trying to do.
Yeah. Which is it's comforting to know
they
that. Yeah. Which is okay. That's life, you know?
Totally.
But like even my most recent EP, there's one song on it that I will play
called
live.
Perfect Blue. It's very beautiful.
It is. It's called Perfect Blue.
Produced and mixed by our dear friend of the pod, Carson Graham.
He did such a beautiful job with it. We literally sat in his studio in one day and we recorded. Most of them are just like one takes. And then I put harmonies on, just me and an acoustic, just like in the studio, and then there's one song on piano
and a kalimba,
which we both did later on.
Oh, really?
But it was just one day. We spent one day and did it. We were going to go back and re-record, but we just never ended up having the time to do that. So we just kept all those studio takes, beautiful. And it's like really raw. And like Carson created this gorgeous like landscape, like.
That's beautiful.
It's really like God. He really understood the assignment. Like it's the kind of thing that like
friend of the podcast.
Grammy nominated, right? Grammy winner.
Grammy nominated technically, I think.
Because he did all the ocean sounds on
SZA's record.
I love that, Carson.
So he was like, I don't think it's technically, but they were nominated for engineering and mixing. So technically, he was listed in the liner notes on it.
Holy shit!
Yeah,
go cool. Carson. God, I haven't seen that guy in a long time.
I know.
He's off adventuring. He's always all around the world. He's everywhere. Nobody's seen Carson in years.
Have you ever seen me and Carson in the same room?
No. I don't even know if I've been in the same room with Carson. But anyway, there's one song on that EP that I play live called Back Away. Everything, I don't really play any of my other songs live. And so I feel like what I've been trying recently is I'm really focusing on the live experience and trying to flesh that out and see what that feels like, because I have so many songs that I'm excited to bring into the studio and record, but I'm tired of feeling disconnected from it in real space. I want it to feel connected to a live entity of like, this is the experience of being.
I want it to feel connected to a malevolent entity.
I want a malevolent entity. What is that?
I don't know. You just said entity. It made me laugh. You're like, I want it to get connected to a demon.
I want to connect my music to Beelzebub.
Beelzebub.
To Beelzebub.
Beautiful.
Anyway. There are probably some people out there who are gonna hate that, but I don't give a shit. And I just want to be rooted in the live experience and then bring that into the studio, because I think it'll feel more authentic and maybe I'll feel more excited about.
I fucking derailed this
with Beelzebub and the malevolent entity.
I don't know. I was funny. You said entity, and I was like, oh God, I can't.
Oh my God. Recently, I've been playing around with going with a new.
Fucked up. Okay.
I love when you have the giggles.
Okay, continue.
I recently, but Keaton knows this. I've been playing around with maybe going under like a nomiker. Is that the right word?
Moniker.
A moniker?
Like
What's
an
a
alias?
nomiker? Is a nomiker a word? Jamie
close enough.
Jamie is so embarrassed for
We've
me
just
right
gone
now.
off the rails a little bit.
No,
Jamie's
moniker.
so
It's a
embarrassed.
moniker.
A moniker.
Like an alias. Like a
Yes.
Like a different name.
Because it's something I've talked about for years is not being comfortable releasing my music under my own name, but I just do it because I don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking about going under a new name. I don't know if I should say
You
it.
should say it.
Should I
it.
say it?
Put it into the world.
Worm lore. Worm lore.
Worm lore.
Worm lore.
So the word worm, the word lore. Is it one
I'll
word
say it
or
again.
two?
Worm lore.
I think
It's
great.
2 words.
I love it. There's a guy named Yokelore.
Yolk lore.
No, we're just doing
let's
free
pull.
association.
I want to pull the room. How do we feel about worm lore? As I'm exploring it, I want to know how it's hitting
Here's
everyone.
the thing.
Jamie,
I really like it, but it's because I know I know the vibe. You know?
yeah, Keaton gets it. Like if
I
you don't
get
get
on a
it, then maybe it's
spiritual
not
level.
for you. And I think
I
that's
will
what
say,
I want.
I will say, on a spiritual level, you did not seem super confident offering worm lore to the room.
I was nervous
Which
because now it's gonna be on the internet.
I think means
Maybe it
testing and
will.
trial testing is a good thing. We can get
Yeah,
the audience
absolutely.
response. Audience, how do you feel about
I'm
worm
confident.
lore?
I am feeling confident about worm lore, and I'll tell you why.
I think that's all that fucking matters.
That's the thing. If you feel confident about it, then I think
you
it's
can
beautiful.
sell anything.
You
that
just
feel
weren't
fucking
sold on my
confident
delivery,
about.
and I'll work on that.
But confidence is 95% of the
Yeah,
game.
you can
It
say
is.
the craziest shit anyone's ever said in your life, and if you fucking believe it, people will be like, hell yeah,
Like,
yeah,
But
man.
you think about the people, the names people have found success under. It's like fucking Hobo Johnson. You're like,
yeah, Natalie Portman's
she
shaved
just
head.
one day confidently was
yeah.
like, this is my name. And
King
so I
Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. Is that what it is?
I think
King
you hit it.
Gizzard
And
King
the
Lizard
lizard
and the
wizard.
Gizzard Wizards. No,
Wizard lizard.
Gizzards Wizards.
Wizard Lizards. I think is correct.
The wizard lizard.
One of
gizzard
those is
wizards.
probably correct. Confidence though.
Yeah.
Confidence is king.
So worm lore.
Worm lore. I don't know, guys. We're playing around with it.
Oh my God, wait.
We'll
Sorry.
see.
Speaking of band
No,
names,
let's
I
change the
have to say
subject.
this on the pod. I don't have to say it, but I will. Is that there's this local band that we played with on a festival, and I was thinking about their name the other day, and I was like, that's such a good band name. And Danny was like, you should tell them. So I'm going to tell them right now. Their band is called All the Better. And I'm like, that is a fucking great band name. It's also a weird phrase that I don't feel like you hear very often. And they're like teenagers.
Better.
And I was like, wow, do you guys, who's saying that?
Teenagers
around
are
you.
so unbridled. Like they just
I know, they
they
just
can
do whatever.
anything.
And it's usually
They're
really
not afraid
good.
of death. It's gorgeous.
I know.
Beautifully
Well, maybe they are.
confident.
They, have
They really are.
confidence.
Kids are
They've got that
really
confidence.
interesting to watch in a music space, actually, to tie this
Yeah.
back somehow, is that kids are really interesting to watch, especially because like I happen to what
Is that just thinking about worm lore again?
I gave Peter the giggles. It's so funny.
I think everyone has the giggles from worm lore.
I know, it's good.
Jamie, I wish there was a camera on your face when I said worm lore. I
So
know,
shocking.
right? I think that's why I love
Exactly.
it. Exactly.
Exactly.
That's the point. Worm lore.
Or
Look at
worm,
me.
No.
Look at me in my eyes and tell me I don't look like worm lore to you.
Imagine this. Picture this. Picture
This is where it comes from.
Hold on.
Okay.
Pause. Picture this, Jamie.
The audience as well. Picture
Yeah,
this to
picture
the camera.
this. The album is called Welcome to the Wormhole by Worm Lore.
That's what we're picturing.
Okay, so it comes from.
It comes from, so I have this thing where I think that all humans look like worms.
Okay.
I think we all look like worms. We are these like oblong, virtually naked, hairless, pink and other color things. And we're one tone. We're like this one tone long thing. And people have been like, but what about our limbs?
Some people are two-toned.
People will be like, what about our limbs? What about our clothes? That's not the point. I just think that we all look like worms.
Let me be clear. What is the point?
The point is, look at me and tell me I don't look like a worm to you.
You look like a person to me.
But think about it. Come on,
no, but
Keaton, you're an artist.
I get what you're saying.
Get on my level.
Where it's like at the end of the day,
Clock
everyone's
in,
just
Keaton.
kind of
Do I look like a worm?
Clock in, bitch. I feel like it's kind of like. I get it.
Do you, or are you just saying that?
No, I do.
Because most people don't get it.
I'm
and
kind of like, at the end of the day, everyone's just kind of this, like, we're just like
we're a tube. Thank you. We're all these like one tone naked tubes
of meat.
And our faces too,
word.
like we're just like round, little rounded. Like if you put me in some dirt, I would look like a worm. Okay, we're getting somewhere.
So someone said basically to Taylor, I want to know more about this worm lore.
Worm lore.
And then we were like,
and then we said band name. And then I kind of sat with it for a little bit and I was like, ooh,
worm lore.
Worm lore is really good. And it feels nice in my body. I also, on a deeper level, love like death stuff. I think death and mortality are really fascinating. And I think a lot of my music is like very like, can be like dark emotional like stuff, especially like Perfect
I can
Blue.
see that connection.
So like worm lore, like the lore of the worms is a death, right?
It could give Graveyard Chic.
No, I'm with you. I get it. I like it.
Imagine me like going to my shows in a hearse. Like imagine
I've always said we should tour in a hearse.
Imagine like dirt imagery. Like get on this level with me, Jamie. Imagine the imagery of this. Worm lore.
From a visual standpoint, 100% with you.
Imagine the imagery of this says nothing about the imagery. Just says
worm lore.
Again. We're like, picture this. Worm lore.
Welcome to the wormhole.
So if you were to
that
take on
has
this
to
alias,
be the title of this episode.
Welcome to the wormhole.
Yeah.
Okay.
Title of that.
It's me. I'm the wormhole.
So, should you decide to take on this alias, what is the timeline of the worm lord?
That's
debut?
the thing I'm so bad at is all that business. I'm not a business brain person. I don't know. I already have the Instagram handle.
We locked that down
Wormlore.wave.
Of course.
Gotta find it.
Wormlore.wave.
Yeah, it was Keaton.
Picture this. Wormlore.wave.
Are you picturing it?
Are you picturing it?
Wait, is it .wave
an
just
Instagram
because
page.
Wormlore was
taken
already?
Yeah, Wormlore was. I actually haven't even looked up what Wormlore is. Let's find out.
We'll find out
Watch
now.
it be like a full
It's
band.
got like 300,000 followers.
Wormlore. Let's find out.
An avid community.
Oh, well, I don't see it. I just see wormlore.wave and wormlore.mp3, which was a mistake. I made that one by accident. So there's also
but you've got it locked down
wormlore.mp3,
just in
I've got
case.
it locked down.
Okay.
Anyway, the plan, I guess, is like I have this show on October 2nd. Like I feel like the next time I release music, it might be under Wormlore. I think
Beautiful.
that's the
I think
vibe.
you should. I think what I was going to say earlier about what we were talking about, the depersonalization of it, because I don't want to say that I feel like my music, I don't feel personal to my music, because I do. I feel very like attached to a lot of the songs that we release, all of the songs we release. But I was like, there is something about going under a moniker or a band name or whatever you want to use, whatever you want to call it, that makes it feel like, I know a lot of like solo artists who go under monikers as well. Like someone like Youngblood is a moniker, and it's obviously that's his blood.
Chapel Roan.
First name Young, last name Blood, and you guys know I love Youngblood. Beside the point, but I feel like his whole thing has been about creating this character, or like someone like Eminem.
No, I agree. Even on the level of
It's liberating. It's like it's
It
very
is
free.
really liberating.
That's what I
had
want.
that moment probably like early into my comedic TikTok era, where I was under my government name and I was doing like political comedy, and I was like, I probably don't want my government name attached to my TikTok. And also there's the like being an actor of it all, and just the not necessarily wanting those things attached. And that served me for a long time, actually, where I was like very happy having that account. It was like I lived on Tillery Street. My name was built around Tillery.
I was like, can we drop the name? No.
Oh yeah,
you
it
don't
was
want to?
Tillery Clinton. I mean that's still my TikTok name. But that came out of like the
bold with the street you live on.
Well, it was a street I lived on, but also like our Wi-Fi was the Tillery Clinton campaign headquarters, so it just like found its way. And because I was doing like political comedy, it felt like the right bridge.
Yeah,
but it got to a certain point, and part of it was because it was a street I lived on when people started looking for my address, that I suddenly really didn't like the name anymore.
Boy, do I remember it.
And now, because I'm not really trying to do that style of work online anymore, I've kind of let that.
Yeah, but
go.
you let it die kind of, and it's nice because it doesn't feel so attached to you.
No,
it's like,
I don't.
It's not my personal. I mean, it is obviously my personal thing, but I'm like Daisy Grenade is me and Danny, but it is me and Danny, you know, in our personal ways and our personalities come through or whatever. But it does sort of live in this sort of heightened. This is me going like full theater mode, but I'm like. This like heightened world where it's like we don't wear stuff that we would just wear on the street. Like we don't, you know, our makeup looks different and our hair looks different, and it's like
this is very Chapel.
Yeah,
exactly
and it's like not as far as going into like Chaperone, who's like has like a full drag persona. But I'm like, but you know, it is like we kind of step into these roles when we are Daisy Grenade, and we can kind of clock out of it, which is really nice. Which is why I'm able to do stuff like this too. Because I'm like, this is not a Daisy Grenade thing. This is just a Keaton thing. Yeah. And so it's like easier to kind of pull yourself in and out, I think, when you have something that you can step into. And also, like, it allows you, I think, a lot of freedom in, I mean, maybe. For me, it does. In writing. Because it's like, it doesn't have to be my fucking shit.
I also think what is nice about either Daisy Grenade or Wormhole is...
Wormlore.
Sorry, we started with Welcome to the Wormhole. That's my fault. I fucked up there. I'm sorry.
A wormhole.
But what I will say...
What'd you sing?
When I was
a wormhole.
Anyway.
My worm.
What I will say is one of the mistakes that I think I made...
Took me into the wormhole to start a worm parade.
Oh, okay. Worm parade.
The one thing about my name that was good for doing political comedy but also bad was people on the internet are dumb. And... Like, people, you have no idea how many people were like,
Peter.
Hillary Clinton? Are you related to Hillary Clinton? like an absurd amount of people were like, oh, he's not even hiding it. He's from this political family. And I was like, okay.
It's the fucking average IQ of the people on the internet is truly so crazy.
But it's funny because in part of putting that name together was like, everyone has an opinion on the Clintons, most of them negative.
Yeah.
Which I thought was very funny at the time. By that name starting to get attention, I was like, oh no, most people having a negative perception with this name, not a good thing.
Actually not great.
Not great for how people interface with it.
I have to say, this cracked me up today. I saw someone reply to a comment from like months ago. Because my new thing about replying to like really shitty comments is just to be hilarious in the response. And so someone was like, there's a Romeo Void song called I'd Like Us Better If We Slept Together or something. I'd Like You Better If We Slept Together or something like that. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I don't know the song very well, but someone commented that the title of
that's why I know it is because of that story.
Yeah. Just the title under the Hypocrite video, like trying to say that we like ripped it off, which is hysterical because it's just like a bass riff. This is whatever. But I commented back and I said, we literally have boyfriends. And people went crazy. They were like, it's a fucking Romeo Void song, you idiot. And I was like, I didn't know. And I was like, but it's hilarious because then it got like fucking 40 replies and it boosts the fucking comments like crazy. Yeah. And I was like, obviously I'm just being hysterical.
But you didn't know women are not allowed to be funny.
No, they're certainly not. And people were all like, these girls don't even know this. I'm just like, you guys literally need to go outside so bad and talk to a real person. Because you'll understand comedy.
Speaking of comments, actually, I have one thing that I'd like to hit before we finish. Because someone asked a question on one of our last videos. And I think it is a good question to ask both of you.
Because vagina?
No.
Oh.
Because you're both... It was more related to like music and bands.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Fun.
And I told this person that we would...
I thought it was related to women.
From Don Jackson 94.
Don Jackson 94, hey.
Said... I wonder if you could discuss sometime in the world of streaming, what is the best way to support bands that we love? Does it come down to ticket and merch sales? And then said, looking forward to seing you in Nashville. Speaking about Daisy Grenade.
Thanks, Tom Jackson.
They're not talking about Wormlore?
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
But
feel taking shots over there.
But this was because in that episode we were talking a lot about how little money is available to down the bill performers and openers and those things. So for each of you, what would you say are different ways that people could directly support you if they love your music, want to see you thrive and succeed, and want to support you? Yeah. What is the right way to do that?
I want to hit something because I think probably in that same video there was a comment that was similar. It was like I was agog at people's responses to some of the things that we had said about the way that we make money on the road. Because I realized how many people, and I kind of mentioned that. I was like, I think a lot of people don't know this or whatever, but how truly out of touch, not out of touch. There's no reason for these people to know these things. But like, how truly unaware people are. So it's like, someone said, so when you're on the road with someone like Fall Out Boy, you're not making the same amount of money as Fall Out Boy. To which I would say, are you fucking kidding me? First of all, that band is fucking massive. And also, of course we're not making the same amount of money because that band is filling the seats on the tour. So when you're going on a support tour, this is why ticket sales, and I will say I'm not so well versed in how this all actually shakes out, but, and I can only speak from my own experience, but when you're on a support tour, what you have is a guarantee. So we talked about this. So it's like our guarantee on a Fall Out Boy tour is, I'm not going to say how much, but it's like, you know, however many tickets we can sell or whatever. That is the cap of the money that you make. That is not on merch, period. And so I just think it's hilarious that people think we're on tour with Fall Out Boy and we're making as much money as Fall Out Boy. Like, that's so insane.
Well, that's absurd, but...
Yeah, but what I will say, on a headline tour, I also don't know how much exactly this shakes out to, but ticket sales are extremely helpful. The biggest thing you can do to support a band is not only buy merch, but tip. Because usually, depending on how that shakes out, and that's person to person, you can decide how you want to do it, especially if you have someone doing it or whatever. That is money that is going into the band's pocket. And merch goes out to paying out the rest, what you paid to get it printed and whatever. And that can be really helpful as far as touring further. But for going for money, if you want to support the musicians whose music you love, putting stuff in their pockets is merch tips. We have a Depop. Buying stuff in our Depop is extremely helpful.
Yeah, I feel like that too, just looking at the alternate sources, because streaming offers so little. If they're opening, they're probably not seeing, unless they are the mainline band, they're probably not seeing the majority of that money.
I mean, I really I don't know. Like I said, I've never done it, so I don't know how that breaks down. Ticket sales, I imagine, are extremely heavy on the revenue side of a headline tour. But like, if you're looking at small artists who are opening on bigger bands' bills, buy their merch and tip whoever's selling the merch, because likely that is going directly to people's pockets, and that makes a massive difference. And I'm not going to say like, if you can't tip, don't buy merch, because it still helps, but I will say, if that's how you want to do it, it's huge.
Well, and yeah, obviously, like, it's expensive to go see these shows. You don't need to feel obligated to those things. But if you're looking specifically to support one band or one group that's there.
Merch is huge. It is huge. Merch tips in general, because whoever they are going to, they're going it directly into someone's pockets. They're going to people
who are in unsung roles on the tour. Yes. Or people who are not making great money
or
on
like,
the thing.
you know, sometimes ours go directly to the band. So it's like, meaning me and Danny and sometimes the boys. And it depends. We decide how we're going to shake it out per tour. Yeah. And depending on who's doing it. But I'm like, that money is going directly into someone's pocket that you're looking to support, which also means like sometimes people who are selling merch aren't getting paid, and all they're getting paid is the tips. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, that is also so super supportive, because that means that your band that you love can continue to take out a crew member that makes their life a lot fucking easier. So I'm like, it's just important. Like, it just is important across the board, no matter who you. And I was going to say, don't ask who it's going to. But I'm like, it just is fucking important. Like, regardless of where they're going into someone's pockets. That's going to help your band eat. Mm-hmm. Literally. And, like, pay their rents. So, yeah, that's what I would say. Sorry for my long-winded answer.
That was a good answer.
Thank you. Go for it, Queen.
How can we support worm lore? I'm sorry, my brain goes to wormhole now. I don't know why.
Wormhole.
I just got to rewire it a little bit.
That's okay. You can call it wormhole. I give you permission. You can call it wormhole.
You can misname her band.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Wormlore. Gosh. Well, wormlore is just a twinkle in my eye right now. But in general supporting. I mean, like I'm definitely a smaller artist than DG for sure. And
don't say that.
I'm so sorry. What I meant to say is I am the biggest superstar in the world.
Yes.
And the way that you can support my music, I think honestly, like telling your friends, tell your friends about it. If you like really love a song, just share it with someone. Like send it to a friend. Share it on your story. Put it on a playlist. Like little things like that can really add up, because every once in a while, like I'll meet someone's friend, or like I'll meet a random person and they're just like, oh, like my friend so and so sent me your song and I've been listening to it on repeat for the last week, and like I, and stuff like that is so cool. And it's the only reason that happens is because people shared it.
Well,
so,
I will say, even on a level of outside of just the music element of it, for small artists or people who are trying to build something, the internet is the main avenue to do that at the outset, especially if you don't have support.
Is massive,
and so whether it's sharing, even just watching through in like duration wise, like
the other night we were Keaton slept over and we were scrolling TikTok and your podcast video came up that I had already watched, obviously, but it came up on my For You page, and I was like, I did 2x, I'd seen it, but I was like, I'm gonna watch this all the way through because I know it helps.
But
also, save and share. And
what you can do if you really want to help is when you go to sleep, you put on the song on mute and you put it on repeat and you let that shit play all fucking night.
I think that Spotify has figured out how to curb that.
If it's a singular song, yes, but the way to
put it on playlists,
put it into playlists, and just do playlists of your favorite artist and run it on the repeat.
Yep,
perfect.
Yeah, I know friends who do that, who like build a playlist of their friends' music and just put it on.
Yep, it's a great way to do it. Very helpful, and it takes no real effort.
Well, especially if you're not using the Spotify at that point or whatever,
right?
Like if you're sleeping or
and also like tell your favorite artists that you love them.
Tell artists that you like them. I also am fully on that.
In general in life, tell people.
Oh my God.
Tell people you love them more.
Leaving a nice comment, or just that is something I actually have really tried to lead with in the last like 6 to 8 months of my life. Is if I like something, telling the person I liked it, and just even if I think someone's talented, like not trying to do it in a weird way or anything, or needing something back, just being like
overstepping.
I think you were good. Keep on, or like whatever.
Keep
like
it up,
helps. It helps a lot.
There's this artist that I love so much. Her name is Devin Again. And
I love Devin Again.
I've been obsessed.
Wait, you showed me Devin Again?
Yeah, I'm sure I did. I'm fucking obsessed with her. I like found her on like a playlist that I was playing, and when it ends and it just like suggests new songs. A song first came on and I was like, who the fuck is this? And she's so fucking good. And we have like a lot of like mutual friends, I think, or like at least we have like mutual followers, and she's like an LA girly, so I imagine that we work with a lot of the same people, and I'm just such a fan that like she was my number one listened to artist, and she doesn't even have a full album out yet of 2023, and it's so funny because I'm always like commenting like, yes, Queen Slay, and like from all these things, and we do not interact on like any sort of a mutual friendship level whatsoever, but I'm just like, I'm keeping at it because I'm like, you are incredible. And I just really love what you're doing. And I like get genuinely so fucking excited every time she puts out music because it's always good. And so I'm like, if you can just literally do that, don't be weird, obviously. But
There's a point, like, once you have sent the nice message, you could stop. Like, you don't need to send, especially if it's like, you don't need to like.
What I'm trying to say is it's not embarrassing and it's not cringe to be a fan of something. No. It is not embarrassing to really, really enjoy something, even if other people don't enjoy it, or if people tell you that it's stupid or whatever. It is not embarrassing to fangirl out on someone in a respectful kind way.
And stan culture can be scary, but be a fan.
Well, so long as it is respectful, it is not like a weird thing to compliment someone. Like there is a point. Just don't be weird.
I'm like that should be like a phrase that sticks with you. I'm like, be a fan of things.
Be a fan.
Because it also helps you as an artist.
Especially if it's coming from an authentic place and you're not, like, just let that be what it is.
But even to Don Johnson 94, that wasn't his name.
Don
Johnson?
It might have been. Hold on.
94?
1 second. But to
oh yeah, you love her.
But to Don Jackson 94.
Was it Don Jackson 94?
I said Johnson. We were close. Don Johnson sounds like a porn name, but
I was gonna say that.
But Don Jackson is an Olympic gymnast.
But to Don Jackson, even writing a nice comment and asking a question on a video like a podcast or anything else, incredible way to be a fan and support artists that you like that at any stage of their career, whether or not, and like we are obviously in a position with a podcast where we're going to respond to every comment, but even as people get big and larger, like it is a very cool thing and a very nice thing to leave a compliment. Just don't be weird.
Don't be weird.
Once worm lore is the biggest thing in the world, be nice. Send Taylor compliments.
Yeah.
Don't be weird.
Tell me I look like a worm.
Don't do that.
That's so funny because I love that you would love that. If we got a comment that said Keaton looked like a worm on anything, that would ruin your week, maybe your month.
Potentially my month.
It would validate my whole existence because I've felt this way about people my whole life. Worms, all of us.
Worms, everyone.
And the worms will eat us when we're dead.
And on that note,
thanks for having me, guys.
This is Glass Slipping. Thank you so much. Wormlore.wave. Wormlore.wave.
And at Taylor Pearlstein.
At Taylor Pearlstein.
More importantly, at Tay Pearlstein.
At Tay Pearlstein.
Who knows when Wormlore will be anything, but go give it a follow, please. I bet.
But thank you so much to Taylor Pearlstein
for joining us
God,
today.
It's so much fun with you guys. Thanks for talking with me.
This has been Glass Slipping, and we'll see you next week.
And that concludes this episode of Glass Slipping. Thank you so much for watching or listening.
And if you liked it, you can follow us on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Truth Social.
Are we on Truth Social?
No.
Or anywhere you get your podcasts, you can find Glass Slipping. We release a new episode every Friday.
Yes, we do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll see you next week.